Alright, Final Fantasy XIV community, I've got a bone to pick. Some of you are getting really over the top regarding the recent bans on some of the streamers who have been progging the latest Ultimate, and quite frankly, it's a little bit embarrassing. Now, for people who are out of the loop, recently Yoshi P and the dev team released a statement about the uses of add-ons and especially how they pertain to the World First race. There's some interesting tidbits here with Yoshi P saying how they actually want to improve the UI because they want to dissuade people from using the UI mods to improve their rating experience. They even squashed the TPS private server rumor, which I think everybody knew was stupid, but hey, they did it anyways. But mostly the article just goes and talks about the same thing that they've always said, that these third-party programs are a bannable offense. Period. And the Final Fantasy XIV dev have restated yet again that they have no interest in trying to mine data from your computer to find out who's been using these add-ons. So what does that mean? It means they aren't stopping you from using third-party tools or add-ons. Just don't tell people about it. That's all. After the statement came out, several streamers are finding themselves now in GM jail, being notified that they have broken TOS and are being temporarily banned. So to get this straight, streamers who are streaming with disallowed third-party programs are being banned for streaming disallowed third-party programs. And now people are flying off the handle and making some, in my opinion, pretty dumb takes. Now, for a little more context and to be a little more fair, a lot of these bans seem to have been propagated by a few degenerates in the JP forum community who have decided to band together and witch hunt these streamers who are using these disallowed third-party programs. And yeah, I think that's shitty. I think everyone thinks that's shitty. But first, let's take a look at some of these initial reactions of the streamer bans. Let's start with the highly regarded, always objective, most rational place of discussion on the internet. Reddit. Imagine if they cared this much about botting, lol. Yes, because banning a handful of streamers is the same amount of protocol and effort that it takes to deal with widespread botting that plagues all free-to-play MMOs. Every time someone asks why Final Fantasy XIV isn't that big on Twitch, remember this and the Hirora Ramoon's ban. I love how they've managed to diagnose exactly why Final Fantasy XIV isn't bigger on Twitch, and it really just comes down to streamers being banned for bannable offenses. Here's another one. I don't fucking understand 14 devs. So, if you don't want people to use add-ons, implement it in the game. Why do you make really strict DPS checks if there's not an in-game parser? I just don't understand them. Again, you've missed the point. You can use them, just don't show that you have them. Wow, so Square is just deciding to outright kill all of the goodwill and hype that the World First race created. This is a really dumb business decision, and if they become more draconian about add-ons, they're gonna lose a lot of traction about the parts of the game that are the most exciting. Enforcing a ban on streamers who have already been warned about using third-party add-ons? That's not draconian. What would be draconian is if they forced everyone to download an anti-cheat program in order to mine data from your computer in order to make sure that no one has add-ons or third-party software. And finally, this thread made me laugh. Well, if this keeps up, fully expecting a ton of teams to not stream during the next World First race, people who want sub/donations will be, and they can just hide plugins from video capture or just direct ACT trigger sounds to another audio source. I think this is what will happen. People are just gonna hide their stuff now and pretend not to use it. Yeah, that's what they want. Smoke your weed, just do it where they can't smell it. Most of the reactionary takes can be summed up as whataboutism or generally just being mad about streamers being banned for bannable offenses. But let's talk about why Final Fantasy XIV devs are taking action right now. I think for the most part, they've decided to be pretty lax about trying to enforce their streamer bans on this sort of thing. I think some people are taking offense to their actions because they're now suddenly enforcing this rule. In my opinion, the reason why devs have suddenly decided to take action right now is because of awareness. The World First race for Dragon Song has been insanely explosive across all platforms. Streamers were getting tens of thousands of views on Twitch, and YouTube videos were getting hundreds and thousands of views in a single day. From a PR standpoint, I feel like it isn't unreasonable to expect Final Fantasy XIV devs to be forced into action here. As a small streamer myself, I don't expect Yoshi P to knock down my door because I showed ACT for 2 seconds on my stream. But when it's hundreds of thousands of people who are in and out of the community watching this thing, that's a different story. Especially because, in my opinion, the stance that the devs have taken on add-ons has been pretty loose, if I'm going to be honest. And that's to everyone's benefit. The devs understand that no matter what stance they take, people are going to use add-ons. People are going to use third-party programs. Whatever they decide with their ruling has no bearing on what the community will decide to do. And so they know it's unavoidable. And so they don't care. All they want you to do with these add-ons and third-party programs is to shut the hell up about them. That's it. But streamers can't be bothered to do the bare minimum of hiding ACT from their stream, which isn't even hard considering that ACT is not natively captured within the Final Fantasy XIV client. Now, I understand that some of these plugins are incredibly useful and they have really great quality of life changes, and I would of course never use them, obviously, but if I did, I would try and hide them. Now, if anything, I think there's an argument for the plugin developers for Final Fantasy XIV to start having streamer modes being available to the plugins. And what I mean by streamer mode is that it automatically hides the plugins that you use when they detect that OBS is running. This seems like a pretty reasonable ask, and it seems like a pretty happy medium where all parties are happy, where streamers get to stream the game without having to worry. The devs don't have to worry about, seeing these things on streams. And then the plugin developers, still, everyone gets to use their plugins. So that's a win-win in my book. But let's talk about another bad take that I saw this morning. I find it funny how people are saying no way Discord could be third-party, lol. That means Windows is third-party, kek. Actually, yes. With Discord, you can set up triggers and bots. With Windows or a browser, you can go into the sim and practice wormhole and various other mechanics without even entering the instance. So yeah, actually, Discord and Windows are bigger issues than a fucking UI mod. Yeah, somehow we've gotten to the point where we can't understand a little bit of nuance here. While yes, by definition, anything that you run outside of Final Fantasy XIV could theoretically be defined as a third-party program. That said, no one is being reported and banned for using voice call while playing Final Fantasy XIV. No one is being banned for streaming their music unless it's copyrighted for some reason. I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't think Square Enix has any interest in banning people for using, I don't know, a voice chat program with their game. That is not the intention here. The obvious distinction is that third-party programs that pull data from Final Fantasy XIV are the ones that are bannable. Now, if you do what the tweet had said and set up Discord to have triggers and bots, then it becomes a bannable offense, obviously. And pulling up a simulator to play through mechanics beforehand is also a different story because those simulators don't pull data from Final Fantasy XIV. It does not help you to play out the actual raid itself. It just helps you to be prepared for it. In the end, I think it'd be a good idea for the devs to come out and clearly define what they mean by third-party programs. It's kind of similar to what they did with TPS's private server, where they squashed the rumors about the possibility of that. Now, if they end up going full draconian and banning all third-party programs that are being run with Final Fantasy XIV while being streamed, okay, I will eat my words then. But I'm confident that this is not the case, and they are only concerned with feature parity between PC and console and the liability issues that come out with third-party programs. So yeah, this whole ordeal is pretty fucking embarrassing in my opinion and makes me really disappointed in the Final Fantasy XIV community. I get that there are pretty disparate feelings about what Final Fantasy XIV should be in the eyes of the very wide community. And I also understand that raiders feel particularly slighted by the Final Fantasy XIV devs over the years. However, I don't think this is the hill to die on. So yeah, fuck the people who are using this raised awareness in order to brigade reports around streamers who are using third-party apps, but also at the same time, fuck off with the notion that Square Enix enforcing a TOS rule that they've always had is somehow going to spell the end of streaming of the game entirely. That's ridiculous. Anyways, that's all I had to say about this. Peace.